Jazz at Lincoln Center's Blue Engine Records is set to release The Roar and the Whisper, an album by Alexa Tarantino. Celebrated saxophonist, composer, and educator, and one of the newest members of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis. Joining us to talk about this new release is Alexa Tarantino. Great to see you, Alexa.
Hi, Douglas. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And fellow Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis, saxophonist and longtime leader and educator, Sherman Irby is also here with us. Thanks for being here, Sherman.
It's a pleasure.
This first single from The Roar and the Whisper, Provoking Luck, is out now. The full album is out on July 25th. The Roar and the Whisper captures the full breadth of Alexa's artistry, from spirited up-tempo improvisations to intimate and sometimes very mysterious ballads, like probably my favorite track on this record is The Roar and the Whisper. It's such a sexy and mysterious sound that I think could be a theme for either a spy thriller or a mystery movie. What was the inspiration behind that tune?
Wow, thank you so much. It was actually it's spurred from several conversations that I've had with my mentors, such as Sherman and Winton, where we speak a lot about the sort of extreme emotions and characters that we want to be able to bring out in our playing, our writing, and our presence as a band on stage when we play for all the amazing audiences we get to reach. So, but that, while it can reach that large scale presentation in an orchestra, it's really about your personal individual sound and what you can create, the different colors and the aspects that you can make other people feel with your playing. So that's something I'm really working on and I'm striving for. And so it felt like what better way to put myself to the test than to create a vehicle with very extreme characters.
Sherman, you started playing the sax at the age of 12
Yep.
back in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tell us what you enjoy when you hear Alexa playing her sax.
It's that exuberance of youth. Kind of, it's like you can basically go for anything that you want to go for. You don't have all these preconceived things going on. You just be free to play. That's what I like about it. She doesn't have to stick to one convention or another. She has a whole lot that she can pull from. You know, and I think we all in our I can even say from going from Coleman Hawkins all the way up to John Coltrane, going up to Kenny Garrett, going up to me or whatever. We build on what everybody else has done before, so it gives us a little bit more freedom to pull from a whole lot of different aspects. Like you hear on her record, she's playing all kind of instruments on it, and so she's able to pull from a whole thing and not just be, you know, bogged down in one thing. That's what I love about it.
Well, the man himself, Wynton Marsalis, said Alexa is a one-woman wrecking crew, an abominable force for expression, education, and for absolute excellence. What have you learned, Alexa, from both Wynton and Sherman?
Well, let's see where to begin. There's a lot. There's a lot, and some. I think there's things that we've experienced all together that might come to fruition in my mind like a year later. Oh, that's what they were saying. Oh, that's what they were telling me. It's an amazing opportunity to get to work with my mentors and heroes every day and night. But I think the aspect of trying to show everybody what you're about and not worry what everyone else is thinking, not worry about how other people want you to play. Like once you have the tools and the spirit of, the music and that hunger and that intensity about you and that drive to get to where you want to be, it's about kind of putting yourself forward and being vulnerable in that way.
Sherman and Alexa, you probably will get a chuckle out of the fact that I played saxophone back in the high school band and played a little bit in college. But once I came to WBGO 27 years ago, I went, oh, that's how it's supposed to sound. And I heard sounds that come out of Sherman Irby sax and many others. Uh, I never picked it up again. It's still in my room, and I have yet to play it since because I knew that I could not make the sounds that you and many of others that we hear on WBGO. When you started playing sax, what was the moment for you, Sherman, that you said, you know, this is an instrument that I can take control of and I can make a career out of?
Uh, the exact moment, I don't know. I think when all these different things I was studying and was trying to understand started to make some type of sense. Like what I learned from playing piano in church, along with the classical saxophone that I was playing, then listen to Charlie Parker and try to play a little bit of what he was doing, trying to understand that. And all of a sudden I had this thing that clicked when, like in my senior year of high school, some things started to click. Oh, this relates to this. This relates to that. Then going to college and then getting a chance to play Dizzy Gillespie's book when I was at Clark Atlanta University. Then, oh, it's this. And then I was like, I can do this. You come to really, first of all, I'm a musician, so I'm a little hard headed. So, I get this feeling, okay, if somebody else can do it, I can do it too. My parents always preached that. So I said, okay, if they could do this and I can figure out and learn how to do it, I'm gonna learn how to do it. And I'm gonna try to be the best at it. My father used to say, if you're gonna be a thief, be the best thief. Don't get caught. If you're gonna be this musician, which was just something that was so out of this world coming out of Alabama, that you're gonna be this jazz musician, if you're gonna be the best at it, try to be the best at it. And so I continue to strive to do that. I haven't reached that point yet, but I look forward to trying to be better than I am now.
Well, that's hard to imagine. The Roar and the Whisper from Alexa Tarantino. I mentioned Provoking Luck is out now. The full album's out July 25th. It also features Alexa's sophisticated compositions as well as her razor sharp quartet. And she also not only plays the sax, but plays a beautiful flute on this album. She leads a group composing some of the finest musicians in modern jazz, including Steve Feifke on piano, Philip Norris on bass, Mark Whitfield Jr. on drums, and special guest Cecile McLaurin Salvant on vocals and Keto Gawa on percussion. You and Cecile are becoming a powerhouse team, aren't you, Alexa?
We're very close friends, so it's a lot of fun to make music together. I'm so happy to have her on the record.
Tell us about this beautiful track that was actually, her piece when it comes to working together. Moon Song. Uh, you contribute to her stellar vocals with your quartet on her own composition. Tell us about Moon Song.
Well, I think Cecile's writing is really unique. It is very moving. She just has her own sound in her compositions, and I think everybody knows her as a vocalist, but her compositions are equally as impactful as her singing. And so her piece Moon Song, we, in our couple of years of touring together as a small group, we played that together duo most often as an encore or quartet, or maybe trio. The thing that I loved about Cecile's band leading was that she had this freedom about her that a lot of band leaders don't have right now in small groups. I think when we came through, jazz departments in school and we were assigned into combos and we have set lists and all this stuff, things became a little more rigid than the people that we grew up listening to, the way that they came up, like forming bands on the road, coming up with the way they play certain things and having this freedom about the way they cue each other or move to different sections or just create more spontaneous moments. And so Cecile, she'll have a set list, maybe. And if she does have a set list, she'll send it out, but it's loose. And even if she has an idea of what she wants to do, she might just turn to one of us and look at us just to start playing something. And then that might become, me starting an improvised cadenza and her coming in. And then maybe we make our way into a tune. Maybe it's a little bit of an interlude. I mean, who knows? And so That's why I really feel like she's one of the unique artists. When you see her live, like you are truly seeing her create right there. That really will never happen again. I mean, we say that about jazz being an improvised music, like that, those solos that you see and these moments will never happen again. But with her, I really believe the way she created the arc of that band and the performance and her compositions, it's quite unique. So I wanted to bring an element of that to our record.
Sherman, Alexa just mentioned the word schools, and one of the things that both of you share, not only being tremendous players and being part of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis, is you're both educators. For you, Sherman, when did the need, I talk about this all the time on the show, is that people are so lucky in this area to have these great artists who are also educators and want to give back, want to teach this music. Why do you have the passion, and where did that start that you felt that you needed to share your knowledge?
Well, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for all the people that showed me the way. I had people that invested their time and energy into me, and it only makes sense for me to do the same thing. The older we get, the more we understand this is important. This is how the music moves. I remember the times that Kenny Garrett would send me mouthpieces and send me little notes and little pieces of music and things like that of encouragement when I was in college and when I left college to work on the cruise ships. You know, the times that Layman Jackson, great bassist, used to play with Cannonball Adderley and Nat Adderley. He used to send me cassette tapes of music to learn, artists I'd never heard of before. He said, you need to check this out. That kind of time. Danny Harper, the oldest brother of the Harper brothers, Philip and Bernard Harper, their oldest brother. The amounts of time, years that he put into showing me the music of and the thinking of Barry Harris and his own way of thinking of music and theory. And I said, okay, that stuff was given to me, was imparted to me, so I need to do the same thing at some point. And it doesn't always have to be in the school environment. It can be those lessons. It can be conversations. It doesn't take a formal lesson with just saxophones in hands to talk about how the music goes, but just sit down and have a cup of coffee and just talk about the love of the music, the things about music that is important. Your goal as a musician. Are you really trying to reach people? Are you trying to touch people? Those kind of conversations. That's the knowledge that's I like to give out. So I think it's important because I think that's the only way we can pass this music on.
Key word there is touch people. A distinguished alum of the Jazz at Lincoln Center's Essentially Ellington High School Jazz Band Competition and Festival. Alexa, I know education, you now as an educator yourself, you share the thoughts that Sherman just talked about, but for you, why is it important to you that you give back?
I was so grateful and am so grateful to have had amazing teachers from my general music education in public schools all the way up through studying in conservatories. And so Sherman and I both actually went to college for our music education degrees before kind of moving into the professional performing world. And the I think it takes a very special person to be a public school music educator. I thought maybe that was the path for me. And when I experienced that student teaching and getting there at 7 a.m., not leaving the classroom until 5 p.m., you get home, it's still dark in Rochester, New York. You wake up, it's still dark in Rochester, New York. That's where I was doing it at the time. I mean, I it's that is so serious, and I really like give a huge round of applause to all public school music teachers. But the the goal for me was to figure out a way to make an impact and give back with gratitude and joy to my community, but still with a performing presence. So we do master classes, we do private lessons. When we see students after the gig backstage, we talk with them, we ask them if they have their horns. There was a young girl in Amsterdam who brought her clarinet, and so we were, gave her some Van Doren reeds, and we were trying a couple things at the end of a gig. It was probably 11 o'clock. Um, And then the next morning, Sherman and I had breakfast together, and Sherman was telling me about all these people, I didn't necessarily know about, I hadn't checked out, telling me stories of his time on the road. So it never ends, we're all always learning, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So to me, there was no question that that's the whole reason that we're here in this music is to be able to keep that going.
How serious do you take your role as a role model when it comes to being a female artist?
I take it seriously. I think, especially in the situation that I'm in the orchestra, I'm one of 15 people, any type of person. You just have to play the right instrument that's needed in that chair, right? And be a good fit for the band and be a good fit in the section. So to be one of 15 people in the band alone, I'm so incredibly grateful, and honored. And then on top of that, yes, I am a woman, and so I'm very happy to be in a situation where if a young girl is in the concert in the audience, maybe I can be of inspiration to her, to say, yeah, you can do this, you got this. But for me, the model aspect is more about just hopefully to show anybody, no, regardless of their background, it's about that pursuit of, the hard work and the drive and the study that it takes to reach your goals.
Who was the first person, Sherman, that said, "Hey, you're pretty good. I think you can do this"?
The first person that said I can play jazz, wow, it might have been it was my high school band director. I had two band directors, um, Dr. Rosalie Thompson and Dr. Oscar Watts. And when they saw that I liked, they both loved trumpet. They're both trumpet players. So one loved Freddie Hubbard, the other loved Miles Davis. And so when I would go into the offices, I would go and listen to the records all the time. They had all the records out, all the stuff. And when they saw that I was, listening to the stuff all the time, and then I started practicing, then one of my band directors said, "Hey, I want you to get on the piano since you play a little bit at church. I want you to learn how to play around midnight on the piano." I'm like, okay. When they saw that, they said, "Okay, we think you can do this. Just keep practicing, and we'll support you." And they did. So that's probably the beginning. Yeah.
How about your days at Smalls?
A lot of good days at Smalls.
Yeah.
A lot of good nights turned into days at Smalls.
Tell us a little bit about that time period in your career.
And it was beautiful because I got a chance to finally meet great musicians from all over the world in one spot, hanging out on 10th Street and 7th Avenue. You come into a club and playing with each other, playing music, communicating with each other, sometimes fighting each other, sometimes crying together. That was my first time really getting that melting pot of New York and getting that experience. Me coming from Alabama and then my days in Georgia, I didn't get a chance to see that until I came to New York. And then I really understood how small I was and how great the music was. So, okay, I need to really, really, really get serious. You hear a young saxophonist named J.D. Allen, who's a 5'5" tenor saxophone player that you can hear his sound outside of the club on the street with no microphone. That taught me I need to get my sound together. To see a Roy Hargrove come in and after playing clubs and playing concerts all day to come in and play a jam session till 5 in the morning. To go and hang out with Larry Willis or with Ray Bryant at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the trains to come in for the next day and sitting down and talking with them all night, regardless of how young I was and how accomplished they were. It was a beautiful experience. Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's the magic. Now, Alexa, you're a graduate of Hall High School's award-winning music program in West Hartford, Connecticut, now living in New York City. The fact that this is not your first album, what has changed for you as an artist since your debut album. How did you approach this one differently, or was it just the fact that you continue to grow as a player?
Well, I try to make a record as a snapshot of where I am so that I can actually kind of document for myself what I need to work on and how I need to be better and how I want to be better. So, the first few records that I made were on a record label called Positone, and I was approached by them to make some records, and it was a great opportunity for me to just learn how to do it and what it takes for me to get started writing a piece and make myself finish the piece, and see how long I, can develop an idea and move into, so it's more about practicing this concept of, okay, I have these musical ideas, I need to get them out on paper, then get them to the band, then get them out in the world. It's just like this. Otherwise, I'm kind of a perfectionist. I'll just stay with stuff in my desk and not let it out. So, the concept of making a record and like having somebody set a deadline for me that it needs to be done by this time, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to get my music out in the world because there's a deadline. I think we're all kind of like that. We're all our own worst or harshest critics. Um, so it's really a process for me, and it's less of like each record being a result, but just this is what I feel, this is what we do.
Provoking Luck. Always interested in how artists select their opening single to be released. That's out now, Provoking Luck. Tell us a little about this piece and why you said, yeah, this should be released before the full album comes out on July 25th.
I think that this one might be the uh like the musical description of sort of my attitude on life. I'm just sometimes to Sherman's dismay on the early morning bus rides. Like I walk on the bus, I'm like, good morning. So it's kind of like, I felt like, okay, once we recorded, I was like, wow, that felt good. There's something, it just had this like this joy and this bounce to it. Um, and I really strive to be like that in real life. I strive to be like, a positive force for people, the people around me, for the music. And so that felt like, just the best introduction to the record. And it's really about staying positive and um, it's about like, the work, the blood, sweat, and the tears that it takes to get somewhere and achieve something. But it's that, that there's pride in that toughness. There's pride in that adventure to get to the next level.
Alexis says she's a perfectionist. I guess, Sherman, that's why she can be in the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wynton Marsalis. Take us into one of those sessions, Sherman. What's Wynton like? I mean, I would think that he is a perfectionist as well.
He's an angel.
I think you need to explain that a little bit more.
No, Winton. Yeah, perfection is a little stronger. Is too strong a word, I think. Um, he likes for for the music to be as best as it can be, but be natural. Mistakes are part of what makes music great too, because sometimes you fall into something that should be on the music that it's not. That's why we love Miles Davis, right? He hit a note is where he goes after that note that is really important, not the fact that he played that note. So um, he's not a taskmaster, but he what he does, he respects that everybody can already play. So you go and you play the way that you play, and then that's the way the music is, and that's the moment. Now, when he go into mix and stuff, it may be a different thing. He may cut it up all to death, but uh, but as far as going into a session with him, he trusts the musicians that are playing. When we say this is a good take, or we say we need to do this again, he trusts that. He doesn't fight that. Over the years, when we're younger, you know how we used to like try to control everything. He's not at that stage. He's like, we let musicians be musicians, and we'll have a good time, and the music will be good because it was good and it will be good as long as we play ourselves. So that's what a session is like. It's not a strenuous thing like that.
For you, Alexa, as one of the newest members of the orchestra. Uh, Take us in. I mean, a lot of people we don't think about, all of a sudden you're a member of the band, but how about auditioning? How about wanting to be a part of this orchestra? What was that experience like for you?
Well, when I first encountered the orchestra as a high school student at essentially Ellington at Jazz and Lincoln Center, I was I think I just kind of, I felt like I got hit by lightning a little bit. I realized like, wow, this is really what I want to do. There are people out here, students my age, everyone's equally as passionate about this. Like there is a world in which this is possible. Um, so in terms of the process of getting into the band, I mean, as I said, it's 15 people and it's like a family. It has to be the right fit, even beyond, I think, just musically. There are a million amazing saxophonists in the world, which is part of the beauty of the music. And I think why the three of us, myself and Abdias Armenteros and Chris Lewis, we are so grateful to be in the section because really there have only been a handful of people in the section really over time. These chairs don't open up often. And Ted Nash was an amazing mentor to me while I was at Juilliard doing my master's. I was able to meet Sherman and take a couple of lessons with Sherman when I was in New York, and just it was really out of the curiosity to learn. But I also started teaching at the Jazz at Lincoln Center's education program, so it was sort of this swirl of events that enabled me to start subbing for Ted. And really, Winton and Sherman and Ted and Victor Goines and Walter and Paul, the section at that time, all just helped me in developing in the ways that the section needed and the band needed. And we're all still doing that. Chris Abdias and I are still learning the way the band does things. When a band like that's been running for so long, there is a way that they do things. Sometimes it's not even vocal or it's just there's different things you can feel. This is different in this band than it is in this band.
I get a sense, Sherman, this is a beautiful friendship that has developed between the two of you.
Oh yeah, man. We're second mates.
Except when she says good
Family.
morning, probably
Except for when-
sometimes.
Yeah,
No, we're like family.
dude. Yes, 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 yes. But no, that's fine too, because everybody's different, and it's the same thing in the saxophone section. If I could say something about Alexa, I call her a machine. She's like a machine. I've said that a few times, and I know people are like, what does he mean by that? There's one thing to have a bunch of talent. Now we have in New York City, let's just say in New York City, we have a whole lot of people that are talented, that can play instruments, that can play the music, somewhat, that are proficient. Uh, but there are some people who really take the time to really work at the things that they are not good at to become better at it. And you can see the ones that put in the work. Alexa's always put in the work. Some people just like, okay, I'm talented, I'm just gonna live off of that. It's like a basketball player that can always shoot, but they don't do any drills. They don't know how to to learn how to dribble like point guards. They don't learn how to really pass the ball. All the other things, what certain plays are, those type of things. She studies, all right? And that's something that you can see. When we saw that in her, it was like, okay, that she's for real. Not just talented, but a workhorse. When it's time to learn some music for something, like we're gonna do this concert next week. I bet you it's time the music comes out, she's gonna learn all the music, all the things that she's supposed to know. All the difficult things that'll be played on the flute or the clarinet or whatever. She takes the time to learn those things. Not everybody is detail oriented and hard headed like us in order to do those things. Okay, I call it hard headedness, but this is we're kind of crazy, and it takes that kind of passion in order to do that. That's something that she has that makes her unique, and it's beautiful to see, and it's an inspiration, especially like for my daughter to see her play. It's a beautiful thing. So that's why I just wanted to say that about her.
Well, that's
Thank you.
high praise, Alexa. Hall High School, I would imagine, has a lot of pride in your work as well.
I'm actually here right now. I'm in my at my parents' house and gonna play the Hartford Jazz Festival this weekend. So I don't think I've really played back in Hartford in a long time. So it'll be really nice. Yeah.
So, part of the essentially Ellington, I like to ask these kind of questions sometimes. You never got to meet Duke Ellington, but if you did, what would you say to the man and what would you ask him?
I think I would say, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Because I want to know. I heard he like would eat ice cream every night after the gig. He would just take a bowl of ice cream. And I think that your favorite ice cream flavor does say a lot about you. That's coming from me as I was an ice cream scooper back in my day in college. But if we are like being really serious here, um, I would probably just want a bird's eye view into when he was writing Star-Crossed Lovers. That's my favorite ballad. So I would just probably ask him about that and say
So,
thank you.
so what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Like a mocha chip situation.
Sherman, you've played with so many greats. If you could go back in time, who would you want to be on stage with and why?
I would have loved to play with Miles Davis. The reason being is that he had a way of putting together a band that played together and free at the same time. I would have loved to experience that on that kind of level. And they played damn near every night. So they were on the road all the time and continued to grow and grow and grow, even though they played the same repertoire a lot, just like when I was in Roy's band. But they, but to have that type of freedom and togetherness at the same time, I'd like to experience that because everyone who came out of that band was great. Everyone that came out of any iteration of his band, they were great. I would love to experience that.
Well, after learning about how much fun you two have together in the sax section, maybe the answer to my question would be sitting in with both of you, bringing my sax and pretending that I could play like both of you. We just have a couple of minutes to go, so I wanted to ask you, Alexa, do you have a favorite on this album? I know sometimes it's difficult to choose.
Maybe Provoking Luck. I think that might be my favorite.
And Provoking Luck is available for people to hear right now. And the full album of The Roar and the Whisper is out on July 25th. And it's Jazz at Lincoln Center's Blue Engine Records that is set to release this wonderful album from Alexa Tarantino. Sherman, the 10th anniversary that Alexa mentioned, tell us about the release that was 10 years ago for the record company.
Oh yeah, 10 years ago we released a recording we did in Havana, Cuba, called "Live in Cuba." Uh, that was a work of love. Uh, There's so many different things that people had to do in order to make that happen. Uh, from us basically help building the stage in order to make it work, getting the people into the hall to come and hear us play, which everybody was ecstatic. The music that we put together, a lot of the earlier originals that we did, stuff from Carlos Enriquez, myself, Vincent Gardner, um, Chris Crenshaw. We all have songs on there, arrangements on that record, and um, and record down there in Cuba. All that, just the energy and vibe. It was something else, and I'm glad that we put that out 10 years ago. It didn't seem like it was that long ago, uh, but and then we've gone so much further after that, and now we're up to the fact that I did a recording of one of the works that I did called Inferno. Um, Chris Crenshaw did a fantastic work on the 50s. Um, Everyone has contributed some. Marcus Printup did some great big band holiday recordings. We've all put the great big band holiday recordings together. Some of the stuff even my daughter used to sing. It's funny how that goes, and and now we up to what Alexa has is very so very happy for her and proud of her the record she has put out. And so, over the last 10 years, we have put a lot of stuff out. We still have a lot of stuff to go. We have an archival department full of stuff that was recorded. You notice over the years we put out a special work by Roy Hargrove. We put out a special concert of Betty Carter, who I was fortunate to play with both of those actually, and to see us putting out this music that has never been put out before, and some of the things that we've done that people have not had a chance to hear all across the world. Um, this is a beautiful thing, and it's a work of love. Uh, it's not easy to do, but Winston felt that it was important to get all of this music out to let people know that not just us are out here, but we're all a community of jazz musicians together. And this is just a microcosm of what we have done as a jazz community over the last 30 years.
First of all, Sherman, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Alexa, congratulations on this album. And it's really inspiring to see the relationships that you have built with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra and Wynton Marsalis, and especially Sherman Irby. We're so grateful that you could join us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for taking the time, and happy 10th anniversary to Blue Engine Records.
Yes, indeed.